never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi guys, welcome back to my Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today is another fantastic day for an interview. And right now is a fantastic time for you to press the like and subscribe button down there, because I've got fantastic guests coming onto this show. I mean, I'm so blessed and privileged to talk to all these wonderful people who all have often enough gone through hell and back and kept going, and now are there to tell their story, to tell about their transformation, the lessons they learned the hard way, so that you don't have to learn the same lessons the hard way and even worse ways that there are out there. So guys, today is a fantastic day because I've got Carrie Schell with me. Carrie is a fellow traveler, is a woman who is out there to make this world a little bit of a better place. And in her case, actually one client at a time. And she has thought, nah, I can do better. I can reach out to the millions out there by coming onto shows like mine and help us to understand not so healthy relationships with drinking. In this case, great drinking. And that is a topic dear to my heart. I'm so pleased that I've got Carrie with me. Carrie Schell, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
We all find our topics, well, let's rephrase that. Typically, our topics find us. Because life just throws us curveballs left, right, and center. That's what life does. It throws us challenges. And certainly, hell, there were a lot of challenges for me, which I was not so good in dealing with. So I used alcohol a lot to deal with that. Yeah, great. I'm a kid of the 60s, and my high days were the 80s, where alcohol was ubiquitous. What about you? I mean, what was your journey with alcohol, and where did you realize that great drinking is something that you're really passionate about?
Right. Thanks for asking. I was an addiction specialist. Well, I am an addiction specialist, and I was the director of health and wellness for a residential addiction center. So very familiar with the alcoholic journey, the addiction journey. In fact, in my own family, my personal life, that has been interwoven into my family. It wasn't until COVID that I actually heard the term great drinking. And being an addiction specialist, it was new to me. So when I started to do some reading, there was very little out there, but I did realize that I was self-identifying, that I, in fact, the addiction specialist, was now the great drinker. So great drinking is when we find our relationship with alcohol has become unhealthy. I'm not an alcoholic, so I don't have a clinical disease, but I know that things had gone to a point where I wasn't really feeling comfortable with it. I was having thoughts, questioning if I was drinking too frequently, maybe too much at one time. So those are some good telltale questions that if you're having that internal dialogue, you may be a great drinker too.
Cool. Let's do a little test with you.
Okay.
4 questions that I pose to you that might sound actually rather familiar to you. Have you ever thought you needed to cut down on your drinking?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there have been many times I've had that thought.
Right. Were you sometimes getting angry when other people commented on your drinking?
Well, that's the thing about great drinking, is that because we're not at that point of, say, addiction or alcoholism, the amount we're drinking seems appropriate and not necessarily out of place. So you're not receiving that feedback or those comments.
Nice. Have you ever felt guilty about your drinking?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And from now and then, did you need an eye opener in the morning? Maybe a Bucks Fizz, or let's have a champagne breakfast.
You know what? To be honest, I don't think a lot of great drinkers have that feeling. I think what it is more is, in my case, and I don't think I'm alone, a lot of great drinkers can tend to be on that type A personality scale. So from the outward appearance, you have all your stuff together. You have a good job, or a successful career, you have healthy relationships with partners and children,
Yeah.
you have great friendships. And so from the outside, everything looks really together. And you're probably even really physically fit. Like it wouldn't be uncharacteristic. And so what I would say a type A personality does is they ensure that everything's together, and the alcohol is really that reward at the end.
Beautifully said. What I was asking you are the cage questions, and these are the classic screening questions for alcoholism as a disease, or alcohol use disorder, as it is nowadays supposed to be called. So, and normally 3 or 4 out of 4 questions, yeah, you're an alcoholic.
Right.
And you're right. You're right. This is a spectrum, isn't it? From I drink nothing and I feel nothing about alcohol, towards I drink nothing but I think about alcohol all the time. Okay, warning.
Yeah.
Towards, oh no, I live a social life, and social can be very broadly described. And we are nowadays in such a life where we are so encouraged to drink. But let's come back to that in a moment. So there you were in COVID, and how did COVID hit you in Costa Rica?
Well, actually, at that time, I was living in Nova Scotia. So that's the east coast of Canada.
Right.
And actually, for me, COVID was not a negative experience. I don't want to say positive, because I don't want to diminish the challenges and hardships people went through. But I was living in a little rural town, and every day I'd go get out and I'd go for a couple-hour hike. And it was a very insular, kind of reflective time that I felt was very precious. I did a lot of reflection, and that's what led me to that awareness of my drinking patterns.
Yeah. And that's so interesting to hear that these are patterns, these are habits, and habits are basically that you make choices and that you take actions and on a continuous basis. And it's so easy for us to do that. Were your friends equally? I mean, friends, you probably were not allowed, or did choose not to mingle with others, or did you mingle over Zoom, or did you meet up with neighbors over the fence, literally, and sitting there having a drink?
Right.
How was life for you?
Right. So in COVID in particular, yes, our family would get together. I have a large family. I have 7 kids. And so when they'd get together, part of me as a mom feeling like I was treating them specially or making it seem festive and celebratory was always having, wine and beer and drinks and that kind of thing. In terms of my social life, there was a certain point, I forget at what point during COVID, when we were still isolating, that we would meet with friends. We'd have an outdoor bonfire. We'd all be, in our little quadrants, but we would be together in person, and there would always be alcohol present. And just to clarify, it's not that the gray drinker is getting drunk. For me, the situation would have been, I'll have a glass of wine when I'm getting dinner ready. Then maybe I'll have a glass of wine over dinner, and potentially a third glass over the course of an evening. So when I'm looking at it, it's a space of, 6-7 hours. I'm not intoxicated, but I've had 3 glasses of wine or 2/3 of a bottle.
I was about to. No. I need to ask you: is there such a thing as leftover wine?
Yes, and I don't have to finish a bottle, and so that's the thing with a great drinker is it's not that you're necessarily getting drunk. You're not. It just seems very, as you were saying, it seems very social. It seems normal, and that benchmark as a society on whole, as what we find acceptable to drink, the volume and the frequency has really changed, but that doesn't mean that it's the right direction to be going in. And so it's a very subjective area for people gray drinking.
And it's very, very, it's a minefield. I mean, what I mean, And what I mean with that is, from a medical point of view, being a doctor, there have been a lot of studies. Some say, oh, see, red wine is good for you. Beer is good for you because after a workout, it gives you the vitamins. You get all kind of comments. If you do men's health, women's health, you get all these kind of bullshit statistics. Some of these statistics are actually real statistics. They were born out of the early 2000s, where we looked at red wine and they looked at the Mediterranean diet, where everyone was drinking a little bit. Oh, that's healthy. Then they found resveratrol, which is something in the grape skin molecule that is actually good for you. Brilliant, more wine. So we always find excuses to do so, but unfortunately, there were now good studies out there that have shown that every single class you take is reducing your lifespan. End of the story. These are the facts. And the facts are typically around 7 to 10 different cancers that get you, and the atherosclerosis that then leads to strokes and heart attacks and high blood pressure, those kind of things that get you. That is really the cost of alcohol. So that's a fact. Now, why does it still come that we have got this kind of very accepted drinking? Because no one is legislating on the alcohol industry. So they self-legislate, which is putting the fox in the hen house, bullshit. So what do? They have got millions and millions of dollars of budget, billions of dollars of budget, actually. So they have got clever people. And they came up with the idea, you know what? We put the onus onto the drinkers. So we say, yeah, that's dodgy. We don't even say that, but we say, we recommend healthy drinking. So therefore, if you can't hold your liquor, that's not my problem. So there you go. And
That's right.
And suddenly, there's all this beautiful drinking there, the mummy wine culture. You've described it so beautiful, the glass that you start with cooking. What did the alcohol give you? I think let's go to that. Let's go back from the big picture to you yourself. When you had a glass of wine, what happened?
I think that's a great question. And I have really thought about that. And I think it comes down to, for me, I'm a list person. And so I'd have my to-do list. And if I accomplished everything in that day, and if I hadn't accomplished, I would frantically be getting everything done before I'd have my glass of wine. It was like, okay, this is what you need to accomplish in the day before you can relax and unwind with your glass of wine. So I really had to stop and think, what is the wine giving me? I'm not getting intoxicated. And I realized that it was honoring myself, that it is taking that time to slow things down in our world that is increasingly busy. And as a mother and a wife and a friend and someone who is an author and speaker and has their own business, and you feel a lot of responsibility and that there's always more to do, more, that the simple ritual of taking a nice, beautiful glass, getting a bottle, even having the thought, oh, do I have a bottle of wine, at home, or do I need to make a special trip, a special thing for me to help in my honoring myself in the ritual? Opening the bottle, pouring it, and then sitting down and taking the time where you're not doing anything. You're just engaging in that glass of wine and maybe chatting, or maybe just chopping vegetables. Whatever it is, you're allowing yourself permission to let it all go. You're letting all the bullshit, all the to-do lists, and it's all about you. But in a healthy way, not a narcissistic way. And so when you come to realize that, you realize that it's not what's in the glass. You can have that same ritual and that same honoring and the same slowing down with soda water and lime. You can still take a beautiful glass. You can still do something and take that time and give yourself the permission. And then you start to realize, well, in my friendship groups, when I'm out for dinner, it's not the wine that's holding us together or bringing us the connection. It's our relationship. And so then you can let go in different places bit by bit, right? So that's what it was. That's what it is for me.
Beautifully outlined. And because if I compared it with my own reaction, being a super dopamine responder, aka addict, we addicts, we have got a dopamine response. I mean, the feel good
Yeah.
hormone. You give me that glass of wine, and I take that glass of wine. I feel the warmth going down into my stomach. And after a few moments, I get this feeling.
Yeah.
That is what came out for me. That beautiful, oh yes, I can relax. And I felt my shoulders going soft from fighter to
Mhm.
constant demand, hypervigilant PTSD sufferer, really. But no, the man who had to gut it together towards, oh, I can relax. More importantly, I was like you, working, type A personality, lists for Africa, going nuts. And then I was tired. No surprise, I had just worked 16 hours. But I want to do more. I want to work. Cool, give me 2 glasses of wine, 3 glasses of wine. Bing, I'm awake. Meanwhile, I'm relaxed. The analgesia of the wine has kicked in, so I don't feel any pain, neither deep inside pain or physical pain, and I can keep going. Yay, like the Energizer Bunny. So I had a second win.
Right.
Is that something that alcohol did to you?
I never really got that like kind of energizer, but it was definitely the exhale. It was definitely the exhale. Let's sit down and connect. Let's sit down.
Mm,
It was almost the signaling of this is where the real stuff happens, where
mm,
we're just hanging out together
mm.
and we get to connect. And it was more that connection I think I was always
Beautiful.
driving after. And if everyone around you is drinking, it's
Of
not that
course.
it wasn't a peer pressure thing, but it just so seamlessly melds into the whole vibe of it, right? So it's hard
Absolutely.
to know where one ends and where one begins. So it for me, I think it was more about the exhale, the just slowing it down, and also just a signaling. Now's our time. Like we're committed to being with each other now, right? It
Mm.
signals that everyone is now present. We all have a drink. We're all going to sit around and connect and talk and appreciate one another. So that's what it did for me.
Very good. Very interesting. And therefore, you could argue, see, there's nothing actually wrong with my drinking. So with
And I
hindsight,
certainly did.
well,
You
that
know,
that
I'd say to myself, yeah, I'd be like, well, if I lived in Europe, I'd be having a couple glasses of wine a day, and no one would even think like I'm so uptight. North Americans have just brainwashed me into thinking this is bad. If I was just relaxed and, still living in France, I'd be all set. And you
yeah.
can convince yourself of anything.
Of course. And that's beautifully said. Only because a culture condones it doesn't mean to say it's right or it's healthy. If you look at the Russian culture of vodka or its relationship with vodka, that's rather unhealthy, may I say. So that's the extreme, yet it is normal in this culture. And
Hmm.
also over times, our relationships have changed. There was a time in the 80s, 90s when drinking was absolutely normal. It would be normal if a doctor was in a clinic at lunchtime in the UK, they would nip out, have 2, 3, 4 pints over some fish and chips, and then go back to the clinic and see patients
Right.
half numbed. But that was normal. Drinking,
Yes.
part and parcel of society. Now that has changed from that time, but guess what? Alcohol industry doesn't like that. So
Mm.
therefore, now the pressures have changed and the insidious way of marketing has changed. So, for example, you were saying, how do you tempt someone who is a fitness bunny, who is a gym bunny, who wants to go out there? And what do? You don't want to have carbs. Carbs are evil. And last time I looked, wine and beer are full of carbs. guess what? The alcohol industry came up with the solution. So now you can have hard seltzers. And if you look at it, we take water, we put some carbon dioxide in it, it's carbonated. Then we put some, lemon juice or whatever kind of bit of taste in there. And then we fill it up with alcohol. And now alcohol is cheap as chips. All the other shit is cheap as shits. So now we put it in a flashy bottle, put some flashy things around there, and market it to the gym bunnies out there. See, you can have your alcohol without the carbs. Go nuts, celebrate, drink with your mates. And you think, what the fuck? And the way I spell it out, you have to say no one is stupid enough yet in the alcohol industry. That's exactly what is happening. And hard seltzers, next time you go to a liquor shop or to somewhere, have a look around. You will be amazed. You find them and you think, damn. And before the hard seltzers were the mummy wine culture, the pinkifying. Did you see that in the United States and Canada? The pinkification?
Well, you would see it in terms of marketing younger women, in terms of like, I think it was called skinny girl wine. So it had less calories, or as you're saying, drinks in cans more easily accessible. But also, to your point about people who want to make sure they're not taking in the carbs or the calories, you just switch to vodka and tequila. So, and problem solved. But of course, you see it in the marketing. Media tells us that if you're part of, like, if you're beautiful and you're with it and you have great friends and a great romance, there's always alcohol involved. You see increasingly in television and in movies that if you're a kick-ass woman, you're drinking scotch and bourbon. You are drinking hard stuff. It's not a glass of wine. Forget that. Like, if you're the real woman to be reckoned with, you're going straight to bourbon. And I can tell you, I don't know a lot of women who drink bourbon, but in the movies, they're all drinking scotch and bourbon neat, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But only in one particular channel. Okay. So let's be very clear about that. There was a beautiful study from the UK where someone actually sat down and looked through the prime streaming channels and spent literally 1,000 hours watching through those channels and looked at the most popular television series that there were, and looked at how often is alcohol being displayed or drunk. Now, it turns out every 3 minutes, regardless what you watch, it doesn't matter what you watch. For every 3 minutes, there is alcohol being drunk, and often in this kind of, I'm a man, or I'm a woman, and then they analyzed what kind of alcohol. And funnily enough, regardless what you watch, there seems to be, in that one streaming channel, there seems to be a certain beer that everyone likes. Weird.
Really?
And then in the other one, there is a certain whiskey that everyone likes. And you think, you're kidding me. Okay, what happened to alcohol advertisement? No, it's nowadays product placement. And therefore, it is so difficult. We are working against a multi-billion-dollar industry. And they are very clever in wanting you to use their product. So therefore, they are working on all that kind of below consciousness brain. And so it's so easy to fall into that pitfall because you get bombarded with it. You just like it or lump it.
Oh, definitely. And it's challenging when your family and friends, you may all be great drinkers. And so to get some perspective, it's really challenging, because if you bring these questions up, or you're the first one to say, hey, am I drinking too much? They'll say, you're not drinking too much. You don't drink any more than we do. And so you'll just say, yeah, okay, I thought so. Okay, good. Okay. And then the voices start again, and the questions start again, and you go to your friends or family again, and like, should I take a break from drinking? You don't need to take a break from drinking, because everyone's in the same boat. And if they're not in a position to be ready to question or acknowledge that perhaps they need to change, you're not going to get that objective feedback of like, yeah, holy smokes, like, we're all drinking way too much. Do you notice we're always drinking whenever we're together? When was the last time I saw you that we didn't have a drink? So it's very hard as an individual, as you're saying. We have the marketing geniuses that have psychiatrists and psychologists helping them really hone in on us. Plus, our own patterns of behavior have become such that it's really challenging to step outside that. What I can say to you is if you are questioning and if you've had those questions, be that person to bring it up. You might have the feedback of people telling you, you're crazy, you're fine, look at you, you've got a good job, your shit's together, you got a good marriage, you look great, you're always, put together, whatever it may be. But just in asking, that might trigger in their brain those questions to start. And you might be that one person to have courage if you do a little reset and stop drinking for a bit. They may think, you know what, I just needed one other person, or yeah, I want to do that too. So I just encourage people to really listen to that inner guide, to that intuition, to that Holy Spirit within, and go with it.
And that's so beautiful. And you're so right. You're so right. By you taking the leadership within your family or within a circle of friends, that can be a very, very powerful thing to be. That can be just that little bit of action, that little bit of leadership, where actually your friends now get encouraged to come along on the journey and maybe address the fact that that their relationship with alcohol is not so healthy. What you're describing, the great drinking, that's the one step below the high functioning alcoholic. Still same things, they've got it all together, but now we are really talking a far more intimate relationship with alcohol, typically far more alcohol, far more damage. So that's the high functioning alcoholic. And then you've got sort of the whatever picture you've got in your mind as the girl in the gutter kind of a thing. So it's, but having said that, if you could just start a bit earlier and actually question our so-called healthy relationship with alcohol, our responsible drinking, as the alcohol industry likes to call it. Often enough, you find that there's not much responsible there. It is actually a slippery slope. Some people hate that. They say, no, I'm strong, slippery slope, bullshit. I'm in control. Regrettably, 95% of alcoholics will tell you there's nothing wrong with me. So denial is actually part and parcel of the addict, okay? Despite the fact that we 100% in our heart know, we are making really stupid decisions. But 95% of people will deny it. So therefore, okay, this is alcoholic. Now we are talking on the lead up to it. And some people say, no, it's not a lead up. It's just me having a healthy life. Go away. What do you say to that?
That's a good question. And it is very subjective to what that role is in your life and why you need it. Sometimes a good example would be food. So if you were one who, say, was really overweight and you made the decision you're going to become physically active, you're going to get rid of, we keep talking about carbs, all those filler foods, all those, white carbs and refined sugars, and you're going to eat whole foods, nothing processed, not things out of the box. You're going to start cooking again if you never cooked. And you're feeling really healthy and great. Whereas before, maybe every day you'd sit down after late and eat a bag of chips, or if your thing was cookies and sweets, you'd eat like a half a bag of store-bought cookies or whatnot. So once you become healthy and you realize you get to that spot in terms of your food and your physical wellness, that I don't need that anymore. Yeah, I can have the odd piece of cake and enjoy it. I love it, but I don't need it every day. In fact, I can look at cake a lot of times and I can just pass it over, whereas before I would have had one or two pieces for sure. So that's how I would liken it to this gray drinking area, that you want to be in that position where you can have a drink or not, where you're not doing a mental checklist like, do I have beer on hand for tonight? That it's not part of how you're functioning, that you can go without it, but maybe the odd time you can have a glass, because as we're saying, alcoholism is a clinical disease, and I'm not here to tell people if you're a gray drinker you'll never have a drink again. My whole thing that I want to encourage people I want them to take a break. I want them to start with at least 10 days, a 10-day reset. If not, go on to 30 and then make an informed decision. I want them then to assess and evaluate, how are you feeling physically, mentally, spiritually? Are you realizing now that you're even having a greater connection spiritually in your life? Are you realizing, oh, I was never hungover, but maybe I was foggy because I'm feeling better. Like, there's things that you may not have been throwing up, or I mean, I'm being really cliche here, but you may just feel better. You've dropped 10, 15 pounds. You're realizing, wow, I'm feeling more patient. I'm feeling more loving. I'm feeling more present. And so I just want to create space for people to make the decision and not let the alcohol make the decision for them. But the sad thing is that when we go on these breaks as humans, that we're kind of conflicted, that we reward ourselves for going the 10 or 30 days by having a drink. So I don't know why we do that. We lose the 10 pounds and we have the piece of cake, right? Is that not true?
Absolutely. So
And
true.
so it's just creating space. And for someone, they may say, you know what? I just don't even want the alcohol. I do recognize it's putting poison in my liver and I don't want those toxins. And someone else might say, you know what? The odd time, the odd glass of wine here or there, or at a wedding, or whatever the case may be. But they feel more control and they don't need it every day. It's something I can take it or leave it. And I think we need to get to that place with alcohol in our lives where you can take it or leave it, so it is not the driver in the seat for you.
Oh, and that's hard. And it can be an uphill struggle. There's no two ways on that, because when you're alone, okay. When you're not so alone, difficult. No, other hand, this one there, My Steps to Sobriety, my book. In there's a chapter called A Heroin-Free Wedding. And it starts off with a mum and daughter being in the kitchen, and the daughter says to mum, "Hey, can we talk wedding?" And oh yeah, let's talk wedding, yay! And the daughter says, "Look, mum, I really thought about it. If it is okay with you, I would like to have a heroin-free wedding." And mum says, "What? Oh my God, darling, are you addicted? What's going on? Do we need help? Oh my God!" And she said, "No. It's just I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. No, I'm not addicted at all. No, I don't use heroin. But it's okay that we do a heroin-free wedding." "Yes, of course we do a heroin-free wedding." And oh God, and then give each other a big hug. And then the daughter says, "Okay, brilliant. I mean, I'm so pleased that you're so understanding. So I thought we'll do an alcohol-free wedding." Mum drops a plate and think, "What the hell? You can't do that. No, there's no way." So what's the difference? Okay, so you are fighting against that standard. You're fighting against that. So let's not be silly. Whilst you want to make changes in your life, there might be forces out there that will try to stop you. What do you tell someone who actually wants to change but feels maybe that they want to please others, that they want to be, maybe deep in their heart they know they're a people pleaser. They do first everything for someone else and then look after themselves. What would you recommend someone in this position? That daughter that wants an alcohol-free wedding.
Yeah, it's really challenging because the same issues will come up with an alcoholic as they will for a great drinker, in the sense of, if I'm the great drinker and my husband is a great drinker and I decide that I'm going to go, say, 10 days without, a couple things could happen. He could say, "That's great, honey. I totally support you. Like, what can I do? Like, we won't have alcohol in the house, blah, blah, blah." And he may say, "You know what? I might still have a drink outside of the house, but I won't have it in the house." Okay. Or he may say, "I'm going to do it with you." Perfect. You're on the same page. You're both. That makes it very easy. Or you could have someone who's basically like, "I'm not changing anything. That's your deal. I'm still going to drink in the house. I'm still." And so what that makes you do is there's a bigger thing there, right? It's going to force you to look at the relationship in a whole new way. Why was alcohol so important in that relationship? Why does it need to stay present? What do you have in your relationship if the alcohol is taken away?
Yeah.
Can you be physically intimate without alcohol? Do all of your conversations happen with alcohol? So you go into deeper questions, and that's why I actually have a free 10-day reset on my website. And that's just kind of like the tiptoeing into it. Because when you decide that you want to go further, 30 days, that's when the meat comes. That's when you look at the friendships. Okay, I have great friends, but what do I have with them? What are we going to do if I take alcohol out of the equation? Am I going to enjoy being with them? Do we do things that don't involve alcohol? Am I going to find that I don't like them? Like what was the glue? What was the substance? What was real? And that's going to permeate a lot of things in your life. It's going to impact how you interacted with kids.
Yeah.
If you have children, maybe there's some issues in owning what your behavior as a parent and how that may have impacted. And I'm not talking about physical or verbal or emotional abuse, but you just may realize that some things just weren't how they should have been, or they should have been better. So there's a lot of work to do. And in terms of the people pleasing, that's a whole other picture. Why is someone a people pleaser? We go back and look at those first bonds as children. What are they lacking? There's obviously some sense of lack and needing to please in order to be acknowledged and welcomed and received. So as humans, we have the innate need to bond. And if we can't bond with one another and make those connections, we'll bond with whatever gives us a sense of relief. So we can't bond and connect due to trauma, abuse, neglect, mental illness, whatever the case may be. And we'll find something that gives us that connection and relief. And it could be alcohol, drugs, pornography, shopping, social media, gambling, whatever it is, we'll find something. And so to the same end, a great drinker, there is a reason, like there's something that you're doing there for yourself, and you've got to do the work to find out and own what that work needs to be done.
So true. And it's beautiful said, Carrie. I mean, it is really it's not easy. So the kind of dry July, hey, I don't drink for a month, yeah, that's all quite pretty. But if you don't do the work, if you don't actually ask the right questions and maybe get guided to ask the right questions to yourself, then probably things will not change. It doesn't.
That's right.
So it is, and it's hard. It's really hard to do that.
Or it becomes a burden. It's a burden. You're doing it. You're doing the 30 days. You're doing your sober October or your whatever. But instead of it becoming ease and flow, you're fighting it and resenting it. And you don't get to that place of acceptance. And so it can be really challenging for the individual who doesn't feel supported and who isn't doing the work.
Indeed, right. And I think we have 2 or 3 times in this interview already pointed towards the why. Why do you enjoy a glass of wine, beer, or hard liquor? There is a damn good reason for it. And the reason can be that you want to escape your reality. Although if you're in that group, it's likely that you don't stop with 1 glass, because 1 glass is not enough to escape your reality. It just mellows it a bit, if that. So that could be one reason. There could be many other reasons that are there. And I think that is something that intentional living will lead you to. The problem with the intentional living, if you've never tried it, you don't actually know what the hell you're talking about and what the hell are you doing. So it is, I guess, a process of transformation where you realize that you're actually grateful for all those choices that you potentially can make every second, and that you start asking the questions, well, is that choice that I'm just about to make, that piece of cake, that half a bag or a bag of cookies, or that bottle of wine, is that really actually bringing out the best in me? or is it just numbing me and just giving me whatever short-term relief I need right now? The question then is, why do you need that relief? So the what is actually happening there? Do you need a break? If so, let's do a break. So what do you do nowadays? So you've decided no longer to go for the glass of wine with the chopping of the vegetables, or with the, so what do you do? What are the alternatives that you have developed?
Well, I think for me, another big piece of my puzzle was just my faith journey, and my spiritual life is very important to me. And so just reflecting on when you get to the point, mindful living is about slowing, we rarely take the time
Mm,
in our busy world to take that time. And perhaps that's why that slowing it down with me for the glass of wine and
mm,
taking the time.
mm,
But even for people to take 5 or 10 minutes in the morning and just to journal or reflect or to pray, meditate, people don't really do that. A lot of people do, but
mm,
we're living in a fast-paced, crazy
mm,
world. And so to be mindful and to think. And so I was really at the point when I thought, if alcohol, I always call it it's your best frenemy. It's there for every situation. It's so readily available. It's there when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm stressed, when I'm angry,
mm,
when I'm bored, when I'm depressed. It's the best friend for all occasions, and it never lets me down. It's always there. It'll never leave my side. And so instead of going to that, I want to go to God. Like, I want to go to my faith life. And so that was the last piece for me, that
mm,
I really want my intention. If I'm going to give thanks, I want to give thanks. If I'm stressed or questioning, I want to pray and meditate. And so that's what I do. So what do I do in terms of, it's not a matter of what am I now doing while I'm chopping the vegetables. It's, I make sure that my day is includes dedicated, devoted time to my spiritual life. And people will say I don't have time for that. And my answer is bullshit. Everyone has time. It's what we choose to spend our time on and how we prioritize. And the great thing I like to say to people are, what are the 3 or 4 most important things to you? So I might say, like someone might say, my husband, my kids, being fit, and whatever. Okay, so how do you spend your day? Where do you like your time allotment of what do you do? Well, I go to a job I hate for 8 hours. I run around and I barely see my husband, tuck the kids in after their sports, and we've spent 3 minutes together because we got dinner, fast food takeout, and then I watched 3 hours of Netflix. Okay, so let's back up then. So what time did you carve out for your husband to
yeah,
have that emotional and physical intimacy? And for your kids, you're so concerned, you know, you need to make these mesh. There needs to be cohesion there. And so you just reprioritize. And I know it sounds shitty, but sometimes you just have to get up the half hour early. If you want to find that time to, if someone's saying, well, I've always wanted to try meditation or to journal well, maybe get up 10 minutes earlier. I know that sounds really kind of crass, like, well, but I'm already stretched and I don't get enough sleep. How am I going to do it? Well, maybe don't spend an hour on Instagram. Like, I'm not being judgmental, but if we really stop and analyze how we're spending our time, we'll see I can take 5 minutes here. I can
mm,
take this time and bring those all together. And now I have a little section of time for me to heal my heart, to heal my soul, to feed it and nurture it. That doesn't include the bottle, so
mm.
that's what I do for me.
Was it not Abraham Lincoln who said, if they give me 8 hours to fell a tree, I will spend 6 hours sharpening the saw? So exactly, we are not sharpening our saws. Our saws are blunt instruments, and you might as well
Mm.
use a bloody stick and try to fell this tree. And that is where we all have become so distracted in
Mhm.
our current world. We allow so many outside influences to distract us, and it becomes nearly a badge of honor. Look, I can multitask. Yeah, you make
Yes.
jokes about men. Oh, men can't multitask. You put them down for it. But at the same token, maybe you shouldn't multitask. Maybe you should actually focus on one thing and actually deal with it, whatever it is. That includes emotions. Actually deal with an emotion, experience it, and know how it feels like, how it tastes. So, okay, so that is depression. Cool. Okay. Hi, depression. Nice to meet you. Good to see you, old friend. But no, fuck off. Because I don't
Yes.
meet you today. So you actually have taken the time, the moment to actually say, that's what is happening today. And maybe see what these emotions, what they really are, and maybe then ask, why are they there? Are they messengers, messengers from your body? Because you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired. The halt, the big triggers halt for me was the revelation, because it was basically, if I had 3 of these adjectives, 3 of these features, then I could see that bottle of wine. And if I had 4 of them, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, my goodness. I mean, in front of me, there was this crystal glass with condensation on the outside, with an amber, beautiful liquor in there waiting to hug my insides. Oh, come on. Okay, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Once you actually start dealing and looking after yourselves, stop running around like an idiot, switch that television off, switch your phone off, and actually reconnect with yourself. Do something for yourself. Sit in a spa, ideally in a place where there is no Wi-Fi reception, or walk the dog, actually go out, hug a tree. I mean, literally hug that freaking tree, and actually just be out there for 5 minutes and literally experience life, and just look at your breathing and just have a feeling. Oh, I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. Hey, cool. It still works. Focus on right now. How beautiful is that? And this is the reconnection that we so poorly do in our modern society. And therefore, it's so beautiful to hear you saying that. Refocus and rethink on your why. What is important to you? And then see if you're actually really fulfilling those needs, because obviously that is important to you. And if you're now not fulfilling your needs, well, there's a constant pressure, there's constant anxiety, there's constant this undercurrent of, oh my God, I'm not doing right. And so you get yourself even busier, and you then mistake, I'm doing so much for everyone else, and they don't love me back. And you get all those kind of emotions. Now things get even worse. So maybe it's time for us to stop, step off the rat race, step off the hamster wheel for a bit. And I think that is what you have so perfectly highlighted. In your case, it was the journey with Jesus Christ, you connecting with your spirituality. What do you say to someone who actually doesn't like God? Maybe they've had their own trauma with the church. Maybe they have been abused as a child by some YMCA leader or something like that. Unfortunately, not very uncommon. What do you say to someone like that?
I would say that get out in nature is what I would say. I would, even if you're in an urban landscape, there are little enclaves that you can escape into green and nature and just be there, because I think that speaks to us. I think there is, when we say the universe is one, I think that's when I feel it, when I appreciate and own that sentiment that we're all connected. It's because I think we've all had that experience when we've been in nature, in a beautiful landscape, in front of the ocean, on a mountaintop, in a valley, in beautiful autumn colors, whatever the case may be. We see beautiful, I'm in Costa Rica, and the beautiful, palms and what have you. And our souls, we need that. We need to connect. And so it may not be, for me, and my journey was a very long questioning one. I did a lot of reading, and I wasn't always, this wasn't always my faith journey. And I rejected a lot and then questioned why I was rejecting and how much of that was I worried, how much had society formed my opinion and how much had society formed my fears of rejection if I believe in God and what kind of, do yoga instructors say they believe in God and, or is it, can they coexist? I don't want to lose my. So I really do think two things. From the time we're conceived, we're moving in our mother. We are born to move. From those, we're moving, and we become. Not only are we not physically active, but we become sedentary. They're two very different things, and they have two very dangerous health implications for us. So we need to be more physically active and moving in our day. We also need to get out in nature because nature deficit disorder is a real thing. It impacts us. So when we connect with nature and when we connect our bodies to what we're intended to do, it just starts guiding you to make better choices and better decisions and to honor yourself in a different way and to recognize there's something beautiful in me. And what you connect that beauty, that inner light, that inner divine, I think there's an inner divine within all of us. And what we attribute that to, I'm not here to dictate. That's your own journey. But I see that light in you. And that's why I love, namaste. It's like, let the light in me light and honor the light in you. If I could live that out, turn that word into a verb, into my mandate, then like, how great is that? Even just stopping and having eye contact, as you know, in the world of addiction and alcoholism, people get to a place where they're so depleted and that we never know what someone else is thinking. And when I engage in eye contact with someone, on a bus, I always like to challenge people. If you take public transit or walking down a street, make an effort to smile and have true eye contact with someone, because you may, in your gaze, validate that person in a way that reaffirms their actual existence. They may have been thinking, I am so worthless. Like, my life is shit.
Absolutely.
I just don't want to keep going. And then I walk down the street and I smile at them in a way that says, I see you. You're here. Yes. And you smile a smile that's like so giving and loving. And that person then walks away saying, okay, they saw me. I'm here. And so there are many things we can do that really speak and soothe and just fill our hearts and souls, that don't have to, be my faith journey.
Love it. Absolutely love it, Carrie. These are very beautiful insights, and I share so many of them. I pride myself on talking in the same way, or even better, to the cleaner than I talk to the CEO, and it is that kind of thing. I just had to reflect. Last night after work, I went shopping, and I had this really lovely discussion and a laugh with the checkout girl, and it was just putting a smile on her face. And that made me feel good. It made her feel good. And I walked out there with a smile myself, whilst probably I walked into the shop a bit more pensive and a bit more, and it was nice. So it's not just something you do for others, you do it for yourself. Because the act of giving, the act of being of service is such a beautiful thing that lifts you up, and that is so easily done. A smile, how beautiful is that? So no, I love it. I absolutely love it. Carrie, I mean, if people love to hear your message and want to know more about you, where can they find you?
You can find me at carrieschell.com. So on my website, and there, if you're questioning about the whole great drinking thing, when you land there, I have a great drinking quiz. So you can answer these questions, and you'll go through different sections about your social life, your intimacy, different things that you'll really get a sense of where you are, how we're saying on this spectrum. Nice. There's also how I mentioned the 10-day reset. It's a free program for 10 days. And, go for it. Just decide you're going to do it. You're going to honor and love yourself enough to give yourself 10 days. And listen, I know it's scary. If you're a great drinker, the thought of giving up alcohol, it's not easy. It's not like, oh, if it were easy, then you're not a great drinker. The thought and fear that you're going to experience and the anxiety thinking, well, okay, I'm going to start tomorrow and I've got a full day tomorrow in that meeting. And then I've got to do this, this, and this. Like, how the hell am I not going to I'm going to need that wine at the end of the day. Screw that. I'll start the next day, right? There will be fears. There'll be worries. That's normal. And that's part of what the 10 days is about, to go through some of those things and to just say it's normal. If you weren't worrying and fearing and stressing, then this wouldn't be an issue. Because if you're not a great drinker, you're not going to worry about missing the alcohol. Just like if you don't have a problem with eating, with your diet, you're not going to worry about giving up junk food because you don't eat it anyways. So just know it's normal, but you are worth the time. You are worth the effort. Do it for you. Take the time and honor yourself.
Beautiful. and what a shame that a certain industry has taken the "you are worth it" and has already branded that.
I know, I'm cliche.
I know. No, it's not cliche. It is. You are worth it. You are.
You are.
It's just not with the bloody painting by numbers in your face. No, it is you're worth it, that you look after yourself and that you stop and take a deep breath and make yourself and learn how to feel good without outside help, without outside validation, without that chemical input there, that you actually learn your intrinsic value, which is huge. And that is all a journey that we are on. Some of us are a little bit further down the line on that path, and maybe therefore, if you love Carrie's message, look down there into the description of the YouTube channel and of the podcast. There are all the links down there. Once you're down there, press the like and subscribe button, and why not share some of your thoughts in the comment section on the video and on the podcast. I always love to hear from you guys, and maybe start a discussion. And just having fun and redefining fun in our lives as something where you don't need alcohol, where you don't need a certain behavior to get to that point. So now life is beautiful. Guys, it was a beautiful, beautiful interview. Carrie, thank you so much for coming on to my show.
Thank you so much.
Truly appreciated that. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with passion. Okay. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turning around.